For me, in my practice, what I end up doing, Barry asked me when I came here, do you draw every day? And yes, I draw every day. I don't think there's a day that goes by that I don't make something. Because for me, I really need to. And I think that that's something that I realize that what sustains me over time, it's not that I need to because I have pain all the time that I need to get rid of. In fact, some of these images are painful, but actually very pleasurable to make. I think it's because it's very pleasurable to make images, that somehow to me, it's a kind of a little, like I can drill a little hole in here, and that little, like, Harry Potter, that vapor that comes out of my head and gets carried onto a piece of paper, and suddenly it becomes something real in the world in itself. And even though, Rex Downs is an artist that I show with at Betty Cunningham, and he's a beautiful artist, and he makes a very analytical kind of observed landscapes. And when he did this beautiful talk, he spoke about, he said, over the years, what I have tried to do is remove my inventive, creative process from the act of making work. And I said to Betty, I do too. Because for me, even though these are clearly mine, and I am, over time, developing a kind of a language which I hope will be unique to me, and I think about that sometimes, even when I'm working. What is it that you say that nobody else can say? But I don't want this to be actually about me. One of the things about having a kid that's so great is that you're not that interested. And getting rid of yourself is some progression that is a really pleasurable thing, to just get out of your own way. And I think the most difficult part of being an artist is to take the risk. Mm-hmm. I love to draw because drawing is the most direct way that I can tap into something. But I think that for me, like I said, I don't close my eyes. Like for me, the wall and the surface of the wall gave so much to me, and it actually absorbed in a certain way that it was powerful just to begin with. It just was chance. It was the gray, and it was also the wall. The wall is like I kept thinking it's like making a fresco. It's like a really amazing thing. But, so when I'm painting, I didn't talk about this it relates. That when I made the sculptures, they didn't have any viscosity, they didn't have any color, they didn't have any stuff that I had relied on in the past, which is a kind of, probably comes out of my own ability and maybe what I was brought up with, which is a kind of a abex kind of whatever. And that was really good for me to remove that because I didn't want that to be carrying the information. But it is true that sometimes if I'm really stuck, I'll just pour some paint onto the thing and like a monster in the cloud, I'll find the drawing or the form. So there are distinct, as if in my toolbox I have separate slots for things like that. But it was a breakthrough for me as a painter to allow myself to see that painting and drawing are not any different. But I think that the idea with the war is that I'm somehow approaching these things from the outside in. It isn't, I don't want to copy pictures of war, I don't want to paint battles. I want to somehow collide imagery together, like pieces of poetry, where the conversation that gets made, like I said in the beginning, the paradox is made by presenting one thing and presenting something else, and hoping that the meaning resides in there. And the reason that I love that is because then you bring your meaning to this. There's a place for the viewer to come in. This morning I came in really early, and thank you, Tony. And what I did was I took the roller. It was a kind of a weird thing, but I took the roller and I actually took away some stuff. So it was all entirely additive until today, and it was kind of scary. Like I just took the roller and I took some stuff out, and I probably will go back in and just maybe articulate one or two things, but as if it went back into the wall. And so for me, I guess if I can shift the process. Like that's what I can do. If I make something big, then I make something small. That's what I do to keep the thing, so I don't stand back. But it's funny in here. Like until the walls were lit, it's not that I paint with my eyes closed. It's more like I'm listening to music. My mother is a painter. I come out of an abstract expressionist background, and I think that what is my kind of way of approaching work, which actually over time has become more unusual, is to try to tap into some kind of inner consciousness. So when I'm working, if I have an idea, I try to act on that idea. In other words, if I'm making something and I say like, what would this look like if I put a blue here? I'm not allowed to step back, take a look at it. I have to act on that thing. So in some ways, even though the work is very personal, I'm trying to access something that is maybe some kind of a stream of consciousness that even goes beyond myself, as though there's something that is intimate, but that it moves beyond me. And part of it is related to chance. And that the later work that I'm working on now, I'm trying to focus on war. Either way, for me as an artist, really out of my control, is as if to say that there is under the polite society, there is a kind of other reality. There is a kind of there's a kind of a structure, and you can think about it in terms of war, how we go every day and we live our lives, and then at the same time there's this other consciousness of this other stuff that's going on.
Get a good feeling, yeah.
When I hit a wall, I always return to observation. Sometimes when people have looked at my work, they've said, oh, you must know a lot about the body. And I do teach drawing and painting, and I think about the body a lot, and I think I've learned more about anatomy through teaching drawing, not because I know a lot about drawing, but because I'm looking a lot, and looking is about what I think an artist really is about. And that somehow these things are just a manifestation, our eyes and our hands and our bodies. But the images that are made from imagination to me are at the opposite side of the coin of observation. So for me, observation is as if I'm taking the skin, the outside, and I'm accessing in. And imagination, I'm trying to come in from my kind of interior and build a structure. So for me, when I'm building these structures, I'm trying my hardest to make them as real as possible. But the beauty of making something from my imagination is what's real to me is not, I don't have to find a person who has a head coming out of their hands. For me, intimately with my own personal life, my own personal experience, there is a kind of a polite skin or a surface to things. Oh, I was talking about AIDS, that in AIDS too, like you would leave somebody's home and they were just young, beautiful people were sort of disintegrating, and yet we all moved along as though things were normal. And the same thing happened during 9/11, that suddenly the whole surface was peeled away. And there was another kind of a reality, and that reality has to do with our humanity, has to do with our fragileness, has to do with, even during Sandy, which happened recently, it's like you suddenly remember, oh, I'm moving along in a kind of a regular way because that's how we have to live, but underneath that there's another kind of reality. You know, when you were saying before, like I really had to resist not making one big, like, you know, EKG line. Okay, I know there's a timeline. I'll just make it big because I thought that was a kind of a line and a line in time. And you know, one time it was the same thing with those multiple figures. I was looking at this book of Hieronymus Bosch. It was in black and white, and I said like, oh my God, that guy uses a horizon. Like I had not allowed myself to use a horizon before. So many things about ABEX are so crazy. Like for me now, I'm using narrative. Narrative is also like you just wouldn't use narrative. I was thinking like narrative in painting. Like why couldn't you use a narrative in a painting? Like what a crazy thing that I had just sort of eliminated. It's so much fun to use a narrative. I love a narrative. But I love this movie, This Is It, about Michael Jackson. And in This Is It, there's a moment where he says, the director says, I'll tell you the dancers when to cue something. And Michael Jackson says, don't tell them when to cue it. And his back is turned to the dancers. And the director says, how will you know when the dancers are going to move? And he says, I'll feel it.